Okay, so you're looking to buy a brand new iPhone 15, but you're a little shaky on which model to get. Do you get the 15, the 15 Plus, Pro, or Pro Max? How much storage? What color should you get? Is there even a big difference? We're gonna look at all of that and more because frankly, I don't want you guys to make a mistake. I did last year, and Apple didn't tell us everything you need to consider as well this year. So I personally think this year is one of the toughest years to decipher which iPhone you should be getting. So let's break it all down. We're gonna basically walk our way through every single model and kind of see what exactly we're gonna be paying for more and if that's worth it to us or you. Firstly, starting with the iPhone 15. Now this model comes in at $799 USD. Also side note, $799 if you want it with a carrier, but if it's unlocked, it's like $829. By going with this model, you're basically getting dynamic island and you're getting that really nice Pro Display XDR screen with peak brightness of 2000 nits. This is actually really handy if you're out and about often because it's nice to have that screen that you can actually read. You also get USB-C, which is fantastic. I guess depends how you look at it. If you already have a bunch of Lightning products, then you might not want that change. You also get the same chip from last year's Pro models, which honestly isn't something to complain about because the chip is great and I don't think you'll have any issues with lag or freezing or anything like that. One thing that does concern me though is the battery life degeneration. Battery health on my phone was actually deteriorating a lot more than any previous iPhone that I've had. Now, I don't know if that is due to the chip or the battery or is just an isolated case to myself, but just something to watch over the next year with the iPhone 15. You also get the same camera system from the iPhone 14 Pro last year with some slight improvements and computational photography features like auto portrait capture. However, keep in mind you don't get that dedicated zoom lens that you get with last year's Pro model, and although you do have that ultra wide lens, there's no autofocusing capabilities on it, so by extension you don't get macro mode on the 15 either. There's no ProRes support either or ProRes. So overall, if you're coming from last year's model, honestly I don't know if there's that many differences that will warrant an upgrade, but if you have an older iPhone, it's definitely a nice upgrade to have. An argument could be made here whether grabbing an iPhone 14 Pro from last year versus the 15 from this year might be a smarter move. The cool thing is you'll actually get some features with last year's Pro model that you won't get with the 15 this year, while potentially being around the same cost. Okay, so now we're going up to the next tier. This is basically you're pitching in another $100 and this gets you to the next step, which is the iPhone 15 Plus. Now this particular model is for someone who wants all the things that we just discussed, but they also want a bigger screen option. It's nice that Apple has this in the lineup because previously if you wanted the bigger screen, you had to pay big boy dollars to go over to the Pro Max. If you wanted that larger real estate for gaming or content consumption, or you just generally prefer larger screens, the iPhone 15 Plus is a great option. You will also get naturally a better battery life, which is also a very important factor to keep in mind. You don't mind having a bigger phone that will naturally be a little tougher to one hand and hold and kind of take around and even pocket, but it will give you a better experience using that phone. Then these are all things that you need to consider whether you're going iPhone 15 or iPhone 15 Plus. Now you're just a stone's throw of $100 away from the iPhone 15 Pro, which I think personally, you should seriously consider this year. Unlike previous years, I personally think this is one of those years where the difference is big enough between the baseline and the Pro models to potentially warrant a jump to the Pro models. What exactly are you gonna get here? There's four main categories we're gonna consider here, and these are all things you should think, hey, do I really need this before jumping into this tier? Firstly, and my biggest requirement for any phone nowadays is 120 Hz Pro Motion. Going back to like a 60 Hz panel, yeah, it feels like a significant downgrade for me. Everything feels choppy, unrefined. I just can't use it. Once you see that 120 Hz panel, there's no way you're gonna be able to go back to 60. It's a noticeable difference and it makes the entire user experience quite a bit more premium in my opinion. You also get the always on display here with the Pro model, so that's another thing to consider, especially with cool features like standby mode where you can pretty much charge your phone horizontally and it triggers this always on display that looks kind of cool at a desk. In terms of the body, if you've ever wanted to try the Pro models before but you were weary because of the size and weight of them, then I got good news for you because this year the Pro models are the lightest ever thanks to the titanium bezels. In fact, last year the smaller iPhone 14 Pro was heavier than the the bigger 14 Plus. But no more, all is right in the world again. Furthermore, the Pros do have smaller bezels as well, but the same screen size, which means the actual phones are a tad bit smaller, albeit very minor, but any reduction is a great to have. Now, on the body, you do get USB-C ports on all the iPhones, but something to note here, if you connect your phone for data transfers at all, then you do get 20 times faster speeds with the Pro models. Now, if all you're doing is charging your phones, this shouldn't make any difference to your life, but if you do plan to connect your phone for transferring photos and videos and stuff like that often, then this is something that you should probably consider. You also get an action button on the body now instead of the mute switch, and you can customize this to do a few different things, so that's pretty neat. Number 3, regarding the internals, there's 2 main reasons why you might want to switch to the Pro models from the baseline. Number 1, if you plan to keep the device for a long time and you just want to make sure that you're future-proofed, then going with the Pro models gets you the slightly better A17 Pro chip inside. This will give you about 10% better CPU single-core performance, and secondly, if you are a heavy gamer, because the A17 Pro chip also gets an extra GPU core, which will give you about 20% better graphics performance. And considering that this year we're actually getting AAA console level games on the iPhone, this will make a difference. We have games like Resident Evil and the new Assassin's Creed already announced to be coming out to the iPhone parallel to Xbox and PlayStation. So if you're somebody who likes to game on your phone a lot, then this is another reason why you might want to consider the Pro. 4, in terms of cameras. Now, if you are somebody who records a lot of content for posting on social media, or generally just like having the best video cameras and photo cameras on your phone, and with the Pro models, you are getting full ProRes support and heat maps. You get higher bit rates for video recording, and new this year, you can also record in log, which is really cool because I record all my videos in vlog on the bigger cameras, so I'm really curious to see how this works out to be on the iPhone. And another neat thing that you can do is you can actually connect your phone to record to an external storage device, which will also open up increased frame rates of up to 4K 60. This can be actually really helpful if you're used to recording a lot of video on your phone to be posted online or to do stuff with on your computer. You can just record to an external SSD and then connect that SSD to your computer or iPad for easy file transfer, and you don't have to deal with the hassle of trying to transfer from your iPhone. Now, not to mention, you also do get that extra ultra wide lens with the autofocus and macro focus capabilities, and you get that extra 3x telephoto lens as well. Another side thing to note here is if you've thought about getting the Apple Vision Pro next year or want to have the option to be able to view immersive videos that you shot on your iPhone on the Vision Pro when you get it, then only the Pro cameras have spatial recording. So yeah, overall, I think the cameras are probably the heaviest change between the baseline and the Pro models. So if you are somebody who's a photographer or videographer or you use your phones for a lot of that stuff, then you might really want to consider for that extra 100 or 200 bucks to go into the Pro lineup. Next category is the iPhone 15 Pro Max. This is the biggest jump in the lineup in terms of price. Technically, the 15 Pro Max is the same price as last year, but Apple has done away with the 128 gigabyte model, making the jump from Pro to Pro Max about $200. So what exactly are you getting for that $200? Firstly, like the iPhone Plus in the baseline model, you do get that bigger screen compared to the Pro, which a lot of people do like. You also do get better battery life as well because the phone is physically bigger. And this year, the Pro Max also gets a brand new 5x telephoto lens, which the regular Pro does not have. But it's not as straightforward as you may think. The Pro does have an advantage here though, compared to the Pro Max, which is if you're shooting anywhere between 3 to 4.9x, you'll actually get potentially better quality on the Pro because it is utilizing the 3x lens all the way there, whereas the Pro Max will have to use the regular camera and digital zoom all the way till 5x in order to get that better quality lens for that focal length. Now, one thing to note here that kind of changes things is storage. If you are staying with the iPhone 15 or 15 Plus, I think the average user will be good to go with the baseline 128 gigabytes. Considering the fact that a lot of us just use iCloud for most of our things and cloud storage for a lot of documents and stuff. However, when it comes to the Pro lineup, as tempting as it is to save the 200 bucks in favor of the Pro over the Pro Max, My bet is if you want the Pro series of the phone, you're probably going to be using it to take ProRAW photos at some point. ProRes video and recording and all of this stuff will actually fill up your storage faster than a 30-minute session on TikTok will fill up your head with junk. Which is why if you are going to go Pro, my personal recommendation to you would be to get at least 256 gigabytes. But then the difference between the Pro and Pro Max also goes down to just $100 instead of the original $200. And keep in mind, with the Pro Max, you're automatically getting the 256 GB, which then makes the Max even more appealing as the king of the iPhone 15 lineup. But if you want to prioritize obviously one-handed usage and easier pocketability and everything like that, then I'd say definitely just stick with a Pro, but just go with the 256 gigabytes, and saving that $100 is probably a better idea. Thing that does annoy me is that if I want 512 GB, and trust me, I've actually really considered it, that's another $200 more. I mean, just to get 512 gigabytes, there's nothing more new about that phone. Like, storage does not cost that much. It's honestly extremely tough for me to justify giving that. If you know you absolutely need it and you primarily make content on your phone and that's your professional job or something, then you know who you are and you know how much storage you're probably gonna need. You might even get the 1 terabyte. For me, I will probably be getting the iPhone 15 Pro Max in 256 gigabyte variant. I really do enjoy bigger phones, and this year being a little bit lighter and smaller, I think it's gonna work out pretty well. And last but not least, of course, my favorite topic of all, color. This year is a really tough one, actually, surprisingly, because I know the colors are so similar, but I generally go for these darker or muted colors anyway, so this actually made my decision much more difficult. But I think I'm actually leaning towards the natural titanium color because that's a new color this year and it's the most different from prior years. But yeah, I'll probably be getting all of the colors anyway, so make sure you guys are subbed to the channel and you can check that video out when I drop it. I'm also curious to know what your configuration is and what model you guys are buying. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you want to learn about Apple's secret grand plan and what everyone is actually missing about the iPhone 15 and why Apple made it so boring, check out this video. I'll see you guys there.